Montgomery County Board of Education. We'll all stand with pledge of allegiance and moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, and first I would actually like to acknowledge and welcome, we have 4 board members who are joining us this evening from 2 other counties. In order to receive or qualify for the Board of Distinction Award, we have to have the board critiqued. And so thank you to those that are visiting. From Franklin Special School District, we have Ms. Robin Newman and Ms. Elena Bell, as well as from Dixon County Schools, Ms. Sonia Brogdon and Mr. Steve Haley. Thank you for joining us. And I will turn it over to our Chief Communications Officer, Anthony Johnson, for tonight's points of pride.
Good evening, Board. Tonight, we have the Montgomery Central High School, JROTC, here. And I'm going to ask you all to go ahead and come on up. So if y'all will come up and stand right over in this area. And as they come up, I'm going to read about this amazing honor. On March 11th, 30 schools from across the 7th Brigade traveled to North Hardin High School in Radcliffe, Kentucky to compete in the Sergeant Major Paul Gray 7th Brigade Drill Championships. The 7th Brigade consists of JROTC programs from the states of Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee, all vying to be called the Warrior Brigade Champion. When the dust settled, it was the cadets from Montgomery Central High School who walked away with the championship. Montgomery Central High School dominated the competition, sweeping both overall categories, winning the overall armed and unarmed championships as they were crowned the Sergeant Major Paul Gray 7th Brigade Grand Champions. They earned 8 trophies, 2 championship belts, and the Grand Champion 7th Brigade Warrior Drill Rifle. And I want to recall, if you remember, a few weeks ago we had the J-Lab team from Montgomery Central High School that will be going this summer to Washington, D.C. to compete at Nationals. And next week, this team will be going to compete at Nationals. So Montgomery Central High School, JROTC, congratulations on your honors. I do want to read their names, so there are quite a few here, so I'm going to read those. So the instructor is Command Sergeant Major James Manning, and the cadets are Julie Ashford, Emma Bierman, Ray Black, Daniel Boudet, Mia Butler, Amelia Cage, Gracie Carmen, Sean Divian, Abigail Epps, Ella Galassi, Kyle Heath, Ethan Herring, Lewis Lastic, Cameron Lord, Anderson Lowe, Gage McMains, Jessica Mooney, Alea Victoria Santana Rivera, Mila Smith, Camara Smith, Emily Phil, Kalina Tao, Ivy Tubbs, Carmela Vidito, oh, I got it, and Mia Webster and Savannah Pinckney. Congratulations again. That concludes this evening's points of pride.
Thank you. Next item is approval of consent agenda. Before we get to the consent agenda, I will stand for the reading myself. I am declaring that I have a relative as defined by TCA 49-2-202 who parts of the Montgomery County school system employees. I am certified that the vote that I'm about to cast is in the best interest of parts of the Montgomery County school system. Mr. Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also do have a relative that's with CMCSS. I am declaring that I have a relative as defined by TCA 49-2-202, parts from Montgomery County School System employees. I am certifying that the vote I am about to cast is in the best interest of Clarksville Montgomery County School System.
Mr. Chair, I also have a declaration. I am declaring that I have a relative as defined by TCA section 49-2-202, whom Clarksville Montgomery County School System employs. I am certifying that the vote I am about to cast is in the best interest of the Clarksville Montgomery County School System.
Is there a motion to approve consent agenda? We will have a motion to approve consent agenda, Mr. Garland, and a second, Mrs. Pace. All in favor? Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is reports. Dr. Better.
Yes, the first item is executive order that was presented to you on April 11th. The request was an authorization to overspend the fuel propane from the transportation fund. As you know, this year, the costs related to fuel for our buses has been fairly unpredictable and a little higher than we originally budgeted. So this is the executive order for this evening. The next item, we are actually asking to move the presentation for Goal 4 to next week's meeting. So the calendar of presentations for our strategic work goals is finalized this spring before the upcoming school year. As I previously shared, we have a second round of the Upbeat employee survey that was sent out on April 3rd and just closed this past Friday. We have a meeting scheduled next Tuesday with Upbeat to discuss the data from that. So in order to completely inform the board and thoroughly analyze the results of our teacher retention and survey, comparing and contrasting from fall to spring, we want to include those finalized data points in the presentation. So Ms. Kolaski will be here to present at next week's board meeting.
Thank you. Next item, board discussion and considerations, the Charter School Review Committee recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Griffey. To get this on discussion and everything, I'd like to move to make a motion based on the recommendation for disapproval of the Charter School Review Committee for the American Classical Academy application /Montgomery. I move for disapproval of this application.
We have a motion from Mr. Patterson for disapproval.
I
I have a second by Mr. Nelson. Now open for discussion. Start. Any discussion? Start with you, Mr.
I just want to thank the charter committee for the hard work you did and the results of that hard work. And I just appreciate you, each of you, because I know I served on that committee before and it is a lot of work. Thank you for your recommendation. I respect that.
Space.
I want to thank you for your support. That looks encouraging. I thank all of you. I want to address the one specific item, an issue, but there's two little issues under that. I will talk quickly, but then I think it's stubborn. I know that there's sincere, heartfelt concerns with school options and choices. And I understand that some may not realize that the extent of available options and choices embedded within CMCSS. I'm a passionate advocate of education, and I had such profound pride for years in this school system, as I spent 38 years at CMCSS as a teacher, school administrator, central office administrator, and then 16 years teaching education classes. And I'm honored and privileged to have the opportunity to just involve in such an outstanding local education system. Clarksville Montgomery County has 40 brick and mortar school buildings currently used for student instruction and built with county funds, 24 elementary, 8 middle, and 7 high schools, with adult high school and the alternative schools sharing the Greenwood complex. In addition, Kirkland High will open this fall, and Kirkwood Elementary opens on that same campus in the fall of 2024. All of these CMCS buildings house outstanding traditional education programs with student enrollment hovering around 40,000. The CMCS also offers numerous non-traditional schools and programs of choice for students. And I think this is important to emphasize. If a student is zoned for a school that does not have a program of choice that's offered at another school, families can submit a special transfer request for consideration. Additionally, families have several choices for students within their own enrolled schools. Our system strives to provide families opportunities to choose schools and programs that help those students reach their potential. And some of the schools of choice include the following options: CMCSS virtual school is a grades K through 12. That is a home educational experience that provides families the opportunity for post-structured flexibility learning. Liberty Technical College at TCAT, which is located on International Boulevard, is a unique hands-on learning experience that allows students a no-cost opportunity to work toward an industry certification while completing necessary high school requirements for graduation. Middle College at Austin Peay enables juniors and seniors high school students to complete a high school education while receiving free college classes. And there's 3 pathways, one of them leading to students earning both a high school diploma and a college associate degree. For the past several years, I've sat through Austin Peay graduations and watched CMCSS students receive their college associate degree. And then 2 weeks later, in that very same building, those same students come back and receive their high school diploma, and that's impressive. The Moore Magnet STEM School is a K-5 school focused on science, technology, and engineering and math. Spanish immersion at Barstow Elementary is a K-5 school offering a proven method of educating children by immersing them in Spanish language, enabling them to become bilingual. And then we have the Adult High School, which provides an opportunity for students 17 and older to attain a high school diploma through a flexible, accelerated model, which has been a great choice for students who are really ready to enter the workforce at an earlier age. Here are the programs of choice offered. There are 9 academies within the 8 CMCSS high schools. These academies are schools within school for students in grade 9 through 12, giving students a choice to focus their core class experience around a common career interest. Academy of Business and Marketing is located at Barstow High School. The STEM Academy at Kenwood. Academy of Distribution and Logistics is new, will be at the new Kirkwood High School. The Academy of Plant and Animal Systems is Montgomery Central High School. Computer and Information Technology Academy, Northeast. Academy of Health Sciences, Northwest. Academy of Media Arts and Technology is at Rossi High School, and Academy of Law and Criminal Justice and Academy of Teaching and Learning is at West Creek High School. Our open enrollment policy has offered 375 seats this year. This current year at 14 different elementary, middle, and high schools. Those are for families who choose for their child to attend the school that's not zoned in their zone, and it's available when the seats and the capacity is available. And this process, I believe, begins in mid-January, February, the open policy. And the middle school level, CMCSS has plans for continuing expansion of career technical. In total, there are 3,500 students enrolled in CMCSS schools or programs of choice. The number is almost 10% of our enrollment. This doesn't include the thousands of CMCSS students who choose programs of study or other options in their own enrolled school. While CMCSS offers numerous schools and programs of choice, the district is continuously exploring opportunities to provide additional choices for families within our public school system. These are vast choices and remarkable options and opportunities for our Carson and County students. And that's just one of the many reasons why I am so extremely proud of this public school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, any comments?
I'd just like to thank the staff, the teachers, and the parents that have contacted me concerning this issue. Public charter schools is really an anomaly. Charter schools, I understand. I don't understand public charter schools. I am not a person that believes that we should use public dollars to send a child to a private school. Therefore, this is what this is all about. I really appreciate the staff, your attention to detail as you actually went through the request, and I definitely appreciate your response to the work that you did. Thank you so much.
Mr. Patterson, any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, we raise taxes and we have taxes for our public schools, and always not enough. We can always have more money. But bottom line to me is using public money for charter schools is out of line. I think all of our money should be dedicated to our outstanding public schools that we have in this county. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
I'm going to be asking Ms. Vincent to come up so we can continue the conversation from last week, so I'm going to defer to Mr. Nelson, because my questions will be quite lengthy.
Mr. Nelson?
Well, I'd like to go ahead and thank the committee for doing the analysis that they did do. Kind of going to go back to my childhood. I grew up in New York City, and when we grew up on Saturdays, we'd be able to go to the movie theater and actually see two movies, and it was usually karate movies, Bruce Lee and some of those other things. And there was one thing I remember from those movies is that while they were entertaining, the audio didn't match the video. So the mouse would move and what was coming out was different. And I think that's what the committee has discovered in this application here. And I thank you for uncovering that.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I'm going to ask Ms. Vincent to come back up. And last week, we didn't ask the opportunity to ask some questions about the presentation. So I want to go through the presentation. And Ms. Vincent, I'm going to start with question 4, the questions I've submitted. So, and I don't know if we could bring down the presentation so we can, can't? Okay. Okay, I'd asked for, ahead of time, okay. So the question 4, did the review committee use the Tennessee Department of Education rubric as the standard for this application?
Yes.
Great. If the yes, did the review committee use additional criteria beyond the rubric in assessing if the application met the standard?
No.
Okay, there's no additional criteria used. I wanted to use the foundation of talking through these questions. I'm going to go to question 7. The first section of the application was said to partially meet the standard. What if any part of the application changed from last year, when it was stated to have met the standard?
I will just review the response that was shared.
Sure.
In general, the review committee does not do a comprehensive review of previous year's applications, nor thoroughly compare and contrast previous applications with current applications, as the committee is charged with reviewing the current application. Since several of this year's committee members served on the committee last year, when there were opportunities to highlight readily recognized changes, the committee noted those. However, since there are new members of the review committee who bring their own expertise, experiences, and due diligence, there could be strengths, concerns, or questions raised that were not previously. Finally, since the application must be considered in its entirety, if the applicant made changes from previous applications to one or more subsections of the current application, it could affect the viability of one or more other subsections of the application, ultimately having a potential effect on reviewers' subsection scores that are considered collectively to determine the summary rating for each category.
Okay. So we had the opportunity to ask American Classical some questions. I asked them this question. The first section of the Charter Review Committee was said to partially meet the standard. What if any part of the application changed from last year when it was stated to have met the standard? I asked them basically the same question. They said no significant changes were made in the academic section. The only significant change was to provide much more detail, extensive detail, on how we plan to deliver special education and special population services. So it is a concern of mine that last year, this section of the application met the standard, but this year it did not, when it seemed like nothing changed in the application, only to strengthen sections, and it makes me wonder, did we get it wrong last year or getting it wrong this year? I don't understand. So I didn't get a direct answer from the district. I got a direct answer from them on that question. My next question on here was on slide 13 of the presentation. It stated that as a deficiency of lack of alignment between the curriculum materials and state standards with no clear plan for ensuring alignment for those materials. For my calculations, the application speaks of aligning to the standards at least 10 times reading through it. How is this unclear that the applicant's curriculum won't be aligned with the standards, especially when it is required by law for them to do so. Furthermore, it is reasonable to state that they will have optimal time of alignment, knowing that there will be a 4-year gap between opening Montgomery County for the high school and middle school students.
Per the TDOD rubric, recommendations for approval or denial will be based on the written application, which includes narrative and attachments, independent due diligence, and applicant interviews. Section 1.3 of the rubric states, the curriculum is robust, supports the growth of all students, and is aligned with the Tennessee state standards. It may be reasonable to think that the applicant will have time to align their curriculum. However, our charge is not to assume what the applicant will do, but base recommendations for approval or denial on the submitted written application.
Gotcha.
Furthermore, a characteristic of meets or exceeds the standard in the rubric states that the response includes specific and accurate information that shows thorough preparation.
Thank you. Again, this exact curriculum was approved last year. So it makes me question if we get it wrong last year or we get it wrong this year, which is concerning to me.
May I make a point?
Sure.
Last year, some of the points that you're making were decisions that were made during the amended application review period, which is a subsequent process that if the decision of the board tonight is to deny, the applicant has the opportunity to do. Again, they may submit an amended application review. So I would just encourage you to remember that this is an initial review, and if there are continued concerns, which it's our responsibility to highlight in the initial review, there is that opportunity. So comparing the amended review to the initial review this year, they're not necessarily the same thing. So I just wanted to be sure I made that distinction.
Yeah, I do understand. The distinction I guess I'm making there is their submitted application virtually did not change other than to strengthen 2 sections from the amended section last year. So they carried that on over this year. And at that point, it did meet the standard, now it does not. So that's just the part that concerns me. Question I had here was, does the Tennessee Department of Education rubrics for section 1.3 require the administrator to be local?
Section 1.3 of the rubric does not include requirements about administrators and their qualifications. Requirements about the strength of an administrator are located in section 2.4. However, requirements in section 1.3 of the rubric state that the curriculum is robust, supports the growth of all students, and is aligned with the Tennessee state standards. Since the alignment of the materials in the state standards is in question, and the applicant indicated in their interview that a primary lever they will depend on to ensure their standards alignment is the expertise of the administrator they hire, those qualifications are important, not only for our assessment of the requirements in section 2.4, but also in their plans for ensuring curriculum materials are aligned to state standards as required by the rubric.
So I really appreciate all the work that was done and to put this extra information in here. But simply, to me, it's not part of the standards, what we're saying here, right? If
It is part of
yes
the
or no
standard.
question. So it being a yes or no question here, does the Tennessee Department of Education rubric section 1.3 require its administrator to be local?
The charge of the review committee is to base our recommendation on the application materials, independent due diligence, and the capacity interview. In the capacity interview, we learned that a major focus of the applicant is to ensure that they have an administrator who is well qualified and knowledgeable about the standards, which is directly germane to our evaluation of whether those materials will be standards aligned.
Okay. But the rubric though itself, I don't see where it says that it is required.
I would also remind board members that Elizabeth Vincent is speaking on behalf of the committee. And so I would just ask that you ask your questions to her, but she should not have to defend the answers.
Are you on the board?
It's-
You're out of order.
I'm reminding the board members.
I do appreciate that, but it is a yes or no question. I need to get an answer. That's why I'm asking the question.
One more second. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor, just remember.
No, that's fine.
Go ahead, Mr. Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor, I'm trying to be as courteous to you as possible, but I think she said last week, any questions that you had, I feel like you're wasting the board's time. You had all week to ask these questions, and now you're doing it in this particular performance. And I don't want to call a question on you, I want to be courteous to you to ask your questions, but you had 7 days plus to ask all those questions to her instead of us doing it in a public meeting.
For sure, Mr. Patrick. I did submit these, and we are reading the responses. I feel like it's important that they are made public in this form. Last week, it was stated that this is how we were going to submit questions. It was my understanding, I made a phone call ahead of time, that we'd be able to ask questions last year. It's what the process was last year, that we were able to ask questions, or I wasn't, you guys were. And the meeting ended where we didn't get to ask questions. So I submitted the questions. I do feel like it's important that they go on public record. And so we didn't have the opportunity to do it last week, so I want to follow through and do it this week.
I think, if I will add something relevant to that all of the questions and answers that were asked of the committee and of the applicant, I think that have been posted online along with all of the other materials related to the charter school. So I think they are all posted online.
Yes, Mr. Nolan, you're correct. It's also stated, and it's actually in here, that the district sent out 74,648 emails, 83,948 phone calls or text messages to push information to the charter schools. We only got 100 responses back, so I just am not confident that people are gonna see it there.
Mr. Member, I think it may be better for you to spend your time making points of your concerns instead of revisiting public questions. Points of your concern that you want made public, I believe would be appropriate, but continuing to ask the questions that are public, I don't understand that myself.
Well,
When you said that's a question, it was something new, not the same things.
So these are the questions, and I have some questions off of these questions because the responses I receive a lot of times were not answers to the questions.
Mr. Patterson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since we're talking about questions, I'd like to call for the questions.
We have a motion on the floor to call for question. Is there a second to that motion by Mr. Patterson? I have a second from Mr. Garland. There's a motion on the floor and a second to call for a question. So the vote now will be not for the charter school review, but we have to vote to see if we're gonna call for question. It requires a 2/3 majority vote. So it'll be 5 board members in favor of calling for question at this point.
Point of order. So as the board chair, it is our responsibility, or as a board, is our responsibility. I'll tell you the wrong paper here. It's our responsibility, it's in GZ one, hold us accountable to the citizens of Parks and Montgomery County. It's in our job description to represent the citizens and the taxpayers, and be the district. And ultimately, it is the board chairman to ensure the board meetings, deliberations are open, fair, and thorough. So I believe I'm within my boundaries, not giving the opportunity to ask these questions last week. We were not given that opportunity. The meeting ended. I'm well within my opportunity right now to ask these questions.
I understand your position and your point. However, there is a motion, second on the floor, that's called for question on the issue, so I have to take that vote at this time. So all in favor?
Okay, do one point of order.
Excuse me?
So just one more point of order here. So voting, in my opinion, voting on this vote for other board members is not allowing board members to ask questions that were not allowed to ask last week.
The only thing that I'm calling for vote on is whether we're gonna vote or not.
Okay.
And that's the 2/3 majority. I do have to do that by our procedure. One is called for and second. So all in favor of voting on the issue now instead of having additional discussion, signify by raising your hand. Passes 6, all opposed, 1. Passes 6-1. Question's been called for, the vote has been taken. We now have a roll call vote, it's been requested earlier on the issue itself, the issue of Charter School Review Committee recommendation. Motion has been made that the board accept the committee's recommendation of denying the charter for the school that's been requested. So we'll begin by district. Roll call vote, District 1.
Carol Berry, District 1, no.
District 2.
No.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, point of order. Okay, if you vote yes, you're voting for disapproval.
You vote yes, you're voting to have the vote now. Ms. Berry has voted no to have the vote now.
No.
Ms. Pace?
I think we should have the vote now. I misunderstood. I thought we were getting ready. You said.
We are voting for, motion for the floor to, if a question is called for, and instead of continuing discussion. So we'll do it again, roll call vote on the question motion.
No further questions.
I'm sorry. I just got, we did vote on that, it was 7-6, 7-1. I'm getting confused now. I did about 3 times today. So the motion on the floor is for the recommendation of the Charter School Committee to, deny the charter school to the system. So Ms. Pace voted no on that. Ms. Berry voted no on that. Ms. Pace, your vote.
I was voting against charter schools.
District 3.
This is Drew Herman Nelson, I'm voting against accepting the charter school.
District 4, going to be me. I'm voting against this particular charter school with the comment I am not against charter schools, but I would only vote for one that met the standards required by the state of Tennessee. District 5.
I vote against charter school.
District 6.
District 6, Charles Patterson, I vote against charter schools.
District 7.
District 7, Aaron Neighbor, I vote for the charter schools with the comment. With the comment, I encourage everybody to read my questions and very frustrated at the moment that we shut down the comment.
Next item, comments by Fort County School Liaison Officer. Next item, CMCA representatives. See, oh yeah, go ahead.
Tonight I am stepping in for Constance Brown on behalf of CMCEA, and I hope that I can ask for some clarification, please, from the board. There seems to be some misunderstanding in the audience about the vote.
What is the misunderstanding?
Whether, like, what the vote was.
The vote was 6-1, accepting the committee's recommendation denying the charter.
Okay, thanks. So again, and thank you for that clarification. I'm Melissa Lindsay, and I am stepping in for Constance Brown tonight as the treasurer of CMCEA. I would like to highlight the successes of this year's partnership between CMCEA and CMCSS. This year we have partnered through CMCEA's collaborative conferencing team, through meetings between President Brown and Dr. Luna Vetter, and with school board members and district leadership both here in this room and at our offices. Through this partnership, we have been able to secure significant raises for all CMCSS employees. We have protected the 180-minute per week planning requirements guaranteed by law. We have secured pay for educators acting as subs on their planning periods. We've increased the stipend for the annual setup day, and we have clarified language in the sick leave policy. As we wrap up this school year, we want to make sure that we express the sentiment that together we make our district better. Thank you for all of your willingness to work with CMCEA. We greatly appreciate all of your efforts.
Evening, school board members and Dr. Vetter.
Just an overview, professional educators of Tennessee were fierce advocates of a more robust discussion of the transformative power of public education. As the fastest growing teacher association in the state, we offer a modern approach to teacher representation and educational advocacy, as well as promoting professionalism, collaboration, and excellence without a partisan agenda. I'd like to give you an update on what we have been doing at the Capitol this year. We take your voice to the Capitol, expertly advocating for your priorities and rights at the state and national levels. Professional educators of Tennessee focus only on issues affecting educators and students, not outside issues. This year at the Tennessee General Assembly, we have worked incredibly hard on numerous issues, including many of the following. Increase in salaries. We championed an increase in educator salaries, which we do on an annual basis. This year, the governor included an additional $350 million investment in the new Tennessee Investment in Student Achievement, TISA, funding formula, including $125 million for educator salary increases. Unfortunately for some, the legislation now prohibits association dues from being deducted from teacher salaries. However, this legislation does not in any way impede an educator's ability to join or maintain their membership with any organization. Our dues remain under $200 a year with critical legal and liability insurance, professional development, and valuable member benefits for educators across the state. Most educators already use our online system to pay their dues in monthly installments. Protecting our schools. Lawmakers also passed legislation that seeks to protect students and staff in our schools. Not any more crucial than what's happened in the last few weeks. Again, this was something we had worked on over the summer. 2 bills to focus on. Our Educators' Bill of Rights was expanded by Representative Jay Reedy and Senator John Stevens, is now public chapter 153. This adds the director of schools as a person to whom a principal must report the principal's direct knowledge of an assault and battery or vandalism committed by a student on school property endangering the life, health, or safety of others. Expands the Educators' Bill of Rights to include the educator's right to report an offense of assault and battery or vandalism committed by a student on school property, and the educator's right to receive benefits if the educator is a teacher who is absent from their assigned duties due to injuries caused by a criminal act committed against the teacher in the course of the teacher's employment activities. In addition, professional educators of Tennessee championed the School Resource Officers legislation, House Bill 1174, Senate Bill 1400. This bill was targeted to pass before the Covenant School shooting. This would have provided funding and required each local education agency to assign at least one full-time school resource officer at each school in the LEA to serve during the regular school day and during school-sponsored events held at the school. The governor used our language to add to his own school safety legislation, which we strongly supported. The new measure included a mandate for public and private schools to collaborate with state and local law enforcement, additional active shooter drills, and $140 million to go toward making sure a school resource officer is in every public school. We are grateful to Senator Shane Reeves and Representative Michael Hale, who went above the call of duty to work on this legislation. The next was teacher retirement, recruitment and licensure. We had 2 bills, House Bill 432, Senate Bill 1220, which creates the Tennessee Future Teacher Scholarship, a 5-year pilot program to award scholarships to students pursuing a teaching degree at an eligible post-secondary institution who meet certain requirements and who agree to teach in a targeted setting for at least 4 years after the student completes an approved educator preparation program. This pilot project will assist by paying full tuition and fees for students who enroll in an educator preparation program and agree to teach in Tennessee for at least 4 years in those areas. This includes subject areas and parts of the state where we face the greatest teacher shortage. We also worked on creating a new pathway for honorably discharged veterans to receive an occupational teaching license. Senator Joey Hensley and Representative Monty Fritz were bill sponsors. Both ideas came from working with Chairman White last summer and the school board, Tennessee School Board Association. 3rd grade retention. Perhaps no group in the state was as active as professional educators of Tennessee on this issue. We clearly identified the issue before the session and helped craft the only legislation that passed. While we are disappointed that the changes won't take effect until the next school year, we view the proposed changes as a positive first step because it bases retention on more than a single test score. But with such a short timeline, local districts need to ensure parents understand all the options. Along with Chairman Sapicki, we champion additional support for our K through 2 students, including an expansion of summer learning camps to provide K through 3 students access to assistance, as well as English language arts, tutoring for any K through 3 student who is retained. As we wrote prior to the 2023 legislative session, a strong educational system is essential to our future. An engaging and challenging education is a proven path to prosperity and a lifelong love of learning. The most effective vision for K-12 education in Tennessee is one that embraces local control of education and listens to those educating our children and encourages or engages with parents and families. But we have much work left to do. The next time you have conversations with legislators, ask them if they have sat recently at the warriors' table. You know I'm going to keep bringing that up and listening to their conversations. That is how you get legislation right the first time. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Comments by county commissioners? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Woodard. I want to thank the committee for the outstanding work that they did on this review. I want to thank this board for being active and listening to that review and all of the hard work that you have done. Thank you.
Comments by board members? Mr. Nelson?
None at this time.
Mr. Nagel?
Yeah, I'm gonna speak at the, well, I was gonna say at the very end. I got outside the echo chamber. I asked the community in many different ways if they were for or against these charter schools. I had 234 people indicated they were for them, and 74 people indicated they were against them. I had 10 that were very indifferent. I agree wholeheartedly with Ms. Pace's comments. We have amazing schools. I'm a product of the school system. I love our schools. But I'm also for parental choice. So if parents want a choice to allow their kids to go to another school. I wasn't making an argument on why I believe that. I am a little frustrated tonight. I don't personally take it against any of you guys. I love you all. Okay, I just want to let you all know that. I love you all. Yes, Mr. Patterson. But last year you guys had the opportunity to directly ask questions. We didn't this year, and that frustrates me. And I asked that question in my questions. Who made that decision? I don't know if either any of you guys made that decision. I know I didn't. The last week, the meeting ended when he asked questions. I had questions written out. I can show you my paper. I had them written out. We didn't get to ask questions. I think it's important for those questions go on public record. I obviously was not given the opportunity to do that today. But the thing that ultimately frustrates me about the district report, which I very much appreciate, all the work that went into it, very much appreciate it. But there seems to be a lot of goalposts moving. Last year things were approved, this year they were not. A lot of the things that were listed as deficiencies, which is what I was making the case on, are simply not in the rubric. And the words that was used was due diligence. And if you ask a state legislator if they intended on making something like due diligence to be able to go beyond the criteria, I would venture to say they would say no. Because in the criteria set by the state for charter schools, it explicitly states that if you want additional criteria, you can put it in play, I believe it was before November something, and this district decided not to do that, which is one of the first questions I had asked. So there were no additional criteria, but seemingly, it seems that we're using due diligence to be able to create additional criteria on the fly. And I don't think that's fundamentally fair for any charter school applicant. And I'm not for all charter schools, just to be blunt. I think we should go for what the one in front of us is and vote on the one that's sitting in front of us. But there are many parts of the recommendation that was listed as deficiency that just simply was not according to the rubric. And I was wanting to make that case. I had additional questions from the answers I received because a lot of times the answers I received didn't answer my question. Thank you.
Mr. Patterson? Mr. Garland?
I would like to thank the team. I'd like to thank the board for actually listening. I'd like to thank our evaluators for coming down and being with us tonight. This has been a hard decision, but the bottom line is I think that we made the decision on behalf of the children. You know, I've been on this board for a long time, and every decision that I've made is for the children. We have a district that right now that is second to none, as far as I'm concerned. And as a district that is growing, that is actually making a difference in the lives of not only the children, but even the parents, those that really understand what we are trying to do, you'll find that we are going above and beyond. And Dr. Lone, I'd like for you to thank your staff personally for the work that they put into this, and especially the team that actually set through that 90 days of actually looking at all of this information. And the brief that we had the other night, I thought it was outstanding. The information that you gave was enough for me to understand what it was that I needed to do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Pace.
No, I've had my share of airtime tonight.
Ms. Berry.
And I would like to thank the Charter Committee and all of the citizens of Clarksville that contacted me by way of emails, phone calls, and you know I'll always answer. And the majority of my contacts were against charter schools. I respect my constituents and the citizens of this great city, and I'm not going to apologize when I think the committee, the charter committee, yes, it was due diligence, did an excellent job. They went through every rubric, every part of the rubrics, and they answered accordingly. And I respect that. And I thank you for your hard work. Thank you for contacting me. And I'm going to always vote for what's good for the citizens, the students, and the staff of CMCSS. And if you don't like that, you can vote me out.
I'll keep mine brief as well. I just want to mention again, thanks to the staff and the committee for the hard work and the diligence they did, the time they put in, and the research they did, and the questions they fielded. Appreciate very much the hard work, and thank each board member up here for the work that they did of studying the books. I was handed mine and said, I hope I don't have a test tomorrow. But it would have been one of those cramming nights if I had. So it's a lot of work went into that. And as I stated in the vote, I'm not opposed to charter schools, but I am opposed to one that does not meet the criteria that the state recommends. And I will always be opposed to one that I don't see bringing the added value to our system. And I'm always going to be in support of the students of Clarksville Montgomery County School System, whomever the application brings forth. Also want to recognize once again the visiting board members from Dixon County and Franklin Special School District coming to the meeting tonight and observing and critiquing. I can't wait to get the critique done. I hope that they brought a good ink pen. That concludes my comments.
We'd like for y'all to vote also.
Good evening, board members. As you may be aware, this week we are wrapping up statewide testing in the district. I would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to all the educators, administrators, and proctors who volunteered in schools this week to ensure that this week's administration went smoothly. It truly has been a group effort. As the last month of the school year is approaching, I would encourage you all to pause and recognize the accomplishments of our students. The award ceremonies, the recognition of valedictorians and salutatorians, grade promotions, field day activities, yearbook signings, proms, graduation ceremonies, and scholarship announcements. Even a current high school student who has just been announced as a top 12 finalist on American Idol. There are so many good news stories in our community among our amazing students and educators. Please continue to help us highlight the bright spots and work together with our areas of growth and opportunity. Mr. Griffey, this concludes my report for the evening.
This meeting is adjourned.